Does anyone have any other suggestions? Yes, Tim.
Well, there's actually this crazy new development in the Syrian war.
Okay, what do we all say?
Nobody cares about Syria.
Exactly, nobody cares about Syria.
On October 6th, US forces were withdrawn from Syria during Operation Strong Pullout Game. The US military has had a presence in Syria since 2014 and has been fighting ISIS militants who have been occupying parts of the country since the start of the ongoing civil war, which has now been raging for nearly a decade. The decision to withdraw has come under heavy criticism as it has effectively left America's Kurdish allies in Syria out in the cold. Only a few days after the announcement, Turkish forces, who share a border with Syria, started invading northeastern areas of the country, resulting in at least 90 civilian casualties. The Turkish government has received 3.6 million refugees since the start of the Syrian civil war and considers the Kurdish People's Protection Unit a terrorist organization. The country plans to establish a zone of control between the Turkish and Syrian border and has expressed its intentions to send as many as 2 million refugees back across the border. Over the course of the month, there have been reports of war crimes carried out by the Turkish government and even US soldiers nearly getting shelled by the Turkish military. America's Kurdish allies have expressed their sentiments of betrayal by the United States, and many commenters are worried that this kind of discontent only creates the conditions for terrorist indoctrination. Kind of like how Iron Man creates half the enemies he ends up fighting. It was later reported that US troops would be returned to Syria, not to protect their Kurdish allies, but to maintain control over oil fields. It's just become a stereotype at this point. Greece has remained at the center stage for European migration since 2015. However, many within the nation have become frustrated at the modest assistance offered by neighboring European countries to handle such large quantities of migrants. Tension between Greece and Turkey have been at troubling heights over the continued migrant crisis, and some Greek officials have even accused the Turkish government of weaponizing migrants to increase pressure on Europe for aid and assistance in the Syrian civil war. Turkey notoriously openly bussed thousands of migrants to the Greek border earlier in the year, which led to the shooting of at least one Syrian refugee and the immediate expulsion of hundreds more. 50-year-old Najma al-Khatib, a Syrian teacher and refugee, claimed that she and 22 others were taken from a Greek detention center under the cover of darkness, left in a motorless raft, before eventually being rescued by the Turkish Coast Guard. Miss al-Khatib told the New York Times, "I left Syria for fear of bombing, but when this happened, I wished I died under a bomb." In another surprising twist of events, the Scandinavian nations of Finland and Sweden have formally requested to join NATO, which follows nearly a century of neutrality. In what initially seemed to be a process which would be almost immediately approved, the two soon-to-be members would later be blocked by Turkey, who would criticize the two countries of harboring militant separatists who aim to establish an independent state within the country. A lot of this is caught up in Turkey supporting a different faction in the Syrian civil war, which at this point is just that Simpsons gag, where everyone is betting on the two monkeys fighting to the death. In a weird twist of fate, United States Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, would visit Armenia in the middle of this month, putting her in a country backed by Russia, which is currently at war with Ukraine, which is currently backed by the United States. This situation is still quite straightforward compared to the ongoing Syrian civil war, but as we all know, nobody cares about Syria. The nation of Turkey was hit by a magnitude 7.8 earthquake this month, which rocked the southeast region of the country, as well as the northeastern region of Syria. The catastrophe has now become the deadliest earthquake in 13 years, and the 6th deadliest natural disaster of the 21st century. Because the nation of Syria has basically been a battle royale map for the past decade, the country tended to receive far less casualties from the earthquake. Prolonged conflict has already left much of the northeast's infrastructure in absolute shambles, and 500,000 people have already died in the Syrian civil war. However, as is our news team motto, nobody cares about Syria. China's involvement in this conflict in any capacity could spell a very uneasy prospect for those living in Ukraine. Because as we've seen during the Syrian civil war, proxy conflicts are absolutely devastating for whoever is forced to fight them. However, once again, nobody cares about Syria.
What if it's me looking down on me? The world above must also be